Tom Silva has become a household figure among do-it-yourselfers and homeowners since the airing of This Old House, which evolved into Ask This Old House. It is truly rewarding to witness Tommy's life-changing restorations and the realization of homeowners' goals as he takes on a wide range of building and remodeling projects. And who can forget Tom's brilliance in providing helpful advice to do-it-yourselfers? Many of us have followed his career since the 1980s, and many of his admirers also know details about his private life. Just what is Tom doing today? Aside from the show, does he have anything else interesting in the works? I say we jump right in and find out what happened to Tom Silva. We should find out who Tom Silva is before we go into it. Lexington, Massachusetts, USA is the place where Tom Silva came into this world on January 17, 1947. His future as a general contractor appeared to be written from the moment he was a little boy. It seemed inevitable that Tom would develop an early passion for trades given that he came from a long line of people who valued manual labor. He grew up in a home where construction was commonplace. His father was a builder and his mother and grandmother were seamstresses. He distinctly recalls being 3 or 4 years old, chasing after his dad with a hammer in hand, attempting to lend a hand and likely destroying a few things in the process. Tom and his dad would spend their summer vacations fixing up houses. Plus, there was always a household project going on because I was the 5th of 5 brothers. Creating something special together was a highlight of the family's vacation in Massachusetts, which they enjoyed immensely. Getting his hands filthy was nothing that little Tommy feared. Tom wasted no time getting into his father's business after finishing school. They were like little building crews back then. One day they decided to construct a fallout shelter beneath their old colonial house, which was erected in 1787. Can you believe that these tiny boys are planning to construct a nuclear-proof basement? They were completely unprepared, but they thought it would be worth a go during the Cold War when everyone was nervous about the nuclear threat. With the hope that it might protect them from radiation in the event that things became chaotic, they dug in and built their own shelter. Fortunately, that did not transpire. Nonetheless, the fallout shelter that Tom and his nephew Charles constructed wasn't an isolated incident. For them, that experience sparked an enduring passion. They decided to launch the Silva Brothers Construction Company after they had set up their underground refuge. Since Tom came from a long line of craftsmen, taking charge of a construction site seemed natural for him. Tom has always been open about his journey, from the days of playing with his dad's hammer and breaking things to his start on this ancient house. Maintaining established norms has always been important to Tom. He is willing to experiment with new materials and methods, but he leans more toward tried and true methods. His work as a general contractor is highly satisfying because of his passion for long-lasting quality. And he loves taking his kids on road trips where he constructed houses many years ago. Concerning his connection to this long-gone mansion, he was neighbors with the show's creator, Russ Morris, when he was a kid. When he and his brother founded Silva Brothers Construction, they were initially known for constructing the Victory Gardens initial set. At the outset, Russ tried to get in touch with Tom, but Tom declined, claiming to be too busy. But Russ persisted, and he took the crew to one of Tom's construction sites so they could discuss the project. At that moment, Tom's fascination with television began. He takes great pride in his work with the staff at This Old House and Ask This Old House, and he finds great delight in being of service to others by imparting his knowledge and experience. It means a lot to him when people approach him to express their gratitude. When he has free time, he usually enjoys working on furniture in his workshop or going for boat rides. He was an integral cog in the wheel from that point on, contributing significantly to the show's development. Tom contributes to This Old House magazine and others like it in addition to his job with the firm. Outdoorsy and gardening-related topics took center stage on the show. James Underwood Crockett served as host from the beginning. Bob Thompson took over after his death. The primary objective was to provide viewers with gardening tips and tricks. As the years went by, the show's scope broadened to include gardening, potting, pest management, trimming, and planting. As an added bonus, Tom and Bob began to extend invitations to other people to spend time with them. Jamie Dury, Michael Weishawn, and Roger Swain were among the many guests. Before taking a hiatus from working with edible communities, the most recent season aired from 2013 to 2015. It was one of the earliest American gardening shows on television. Silva family, the 36-season run of construction began in 1975 and ended in 2015. The premiere of the 42nd season took place on October 4, 2020, and it concluded on June 6, 2021. At season's conclusion, the show had transformed into a full-fledged brand with its own television series, website, and magazine. During its time on air, it won 17 Emmys. The episode in which they restored the Weatherby farmhouse at Westwood stands noteworthy. Although the makeover was well received, it marked the first occasion when the host and the guest disagreed on the course of the project. Changing gears, I realize this isn't common knowledge, but Tom was a seamstress once. While his daughter was in primary school, he even sewed her clothes. Over the course of more than 3 decades, Tom and Susan Silva have maintained a strong connection after being married in the late 1980s. This lovely old home in a Boston suburb dates back to the 1800s, and it is the home of Kate and TJ, their 2 children. Despite its rich past, Tom breathes new life into it through his incredible do-it-yourself abilities. Tom was the show's lead carpenter, responsible for all the impressive renovations and new builds that the viewers marveled at. Beyond his expert tool handling, he has a natural talent for breaking down complex building concepts into easily digestible explanations. The wealth of useful information he provided is greatly appreciated by do-it-yourself enthusiasts worldwide. Tom finds great satisfaction in the roles he plays on the Ask This Old House and This Old House teams. He finds great joy in assisting others and sharing his knowledge and expertise whenever he gets the chance. When an audience member approaches to express their gratitude, he knows they value his work. Tom made a name for himself by transforming dilapidated homes into stunning works of art. One of his most famous projects was the 1820s farmhouse Carlisle House, which required extensive restoration. Thankfully, Tom and his crew stepped in to save the day. Somehow they restored its historic appeal after fixing up the base and giving it a beautiful new roof. Tommy also converted an Arlington arts and crafts home with an outdated, tight layout into a modern, energy-efficient sanctuary. They fixed the foundation, built an additional dormer, and included eco-friendly details. Among his most notable accomplishments was the Lexington bed and breakfast. The ancient inn desperately needed some cosmetic work done. Tom really came through, painstakingly repairing the woodwork, doors, and windows while also renovating the common areas and guest rooms. The crew on This Old House takes on some of the more difficult tasks that most home improvement shows avoid. In one scene, they had a little bit of a dilemma with the placement of electrical outlets in a contemporary kitchen with more windows than wall space. In response to the requirement in building codes to install outlets every few feet, host O'Connor interjects, asking, "How do you handle outlets in areas where there is no wall?" Heath Eastman, the head electrician, devises a cunning solution by proposing that they conceal the outlets in receptacles that retract from the tabletop. "I personally wouldn't want anything on the surface, but code is code and we have to have it," Sunil says, despite his distaste for the pop-up outlets that would inevitably mar the otherwise sleek appearance of the countertop. This is the exact moment that reveals the essence of this ancient mansion. They reframe the confrontation from a major confrontation into an educational opportunity for both the expert and the homeowner. Having experts like Eastman share their knowledge with a national audience is what makes the show stand out. The crew is always in the spotlight at this historic property, likely because it knows that the show would be completely flat without them. If you are a homeowner thinking about a complete home remodel, Tom has some good advice. Gradually ease into it. According to him, anyone can feel completely overwhelmed by remodeling, as well as his suggestion to tackle a little room at a time and finish it. Fix up the room as a whole, including the paint, furnishings, finishing touches, and renovations. Put a glass of wine on a nearby table, shut the door, and take a step back once you've finished wrapping everything up. If you ever find yourself becoming overwhelmed by the larger restoration projects, taking a quick trip to that room will serve as a soothing reminder of why you began. He claims that many people attempt to clean every room in the house simultaneously, which leads to stress or, worse, never gets done at all. Also, he made an excellent point regarding how everyone desires the finest of everything, but unfortunately not everyone's wallet can accommodate it. Don't skimp on the foundation, frame, siding, windows, insulation, HVAC systems, or anything else that won't be seen. With these components, you can prolong your time in your home and ultimately save money. Tom brought up the fact that ancient wood was really tougher while discussing the construction of modern homes, despite all the technological advancements. Modern lumber comes from younger trees that absorb water more quickly, making the trim less durable. Additionally, he brought attention to a few high-quality manufactured trimmings from companies like Boral and Azek. If the proper preparation isn't done, not even high-quality materials will last. If it isn't applied correctly, not even the most expensive paint will last, as he mentioned. Home repair shows tend to put the hosts in the spotlight more often than the professional craftsmen who perform the real work. When these workers do show up, it's usually for a little moment, and they usually wind up pounding, lifting, plastering, and painting while zipping around like little squirrels. Despite all their efforts, they are frequently overshadowed by the primary host's enthusiasm. You could assume, for instance, that Chicago house restorations are the only focus of Windy City Rehab. The star of the show, Allison Victoria, is the center of attention. It's likely that you've seen her in the advertisements holding a sledgehammer. She's really skilled at property flipping and has a unique style. When it comes to what is typically a male-dominated sport, Victoria is clearly ahead of the pack. During the typical restoration montages, the construction workers hardly show up. The show Victoria isn't the only one where this trend is visible. It's more of a major problem with home improvement shows. Young people may be discouraged from pursuing professions in skilled trades due to the program's portrayal of a lack of such individuals. According to the Washington Post, there are several factors contributing to the severe scarcity of skilled labor in the United States. These include the lingering impacts of the Great Recession, the retirement of many long-term employees, and the lack of enthusiasm among many recent high school graduates for blue-collar professions. Although it's a complex problem, it's interesting thinking about how media portrayals of transactions could be influencing things. Who among us wants to be the one to steal the show when someone else does all the heavy lifting? As an opposite, this historic home brilliantly showcases its employees, especially young apprentices. Tom Silva's meteoric ascent to fame coincides with the success of the show. Now we may discuss his achievements. People are naturally interested in Tom's wealth as he earns some of it via his shows. Not only that, but he has other sources of income besides the show. Other ventures that make advantage of his abilities also contribute financially. Great news for fans, Tom is still very much involved with the program in his role as general contractor. He became a pivotal player after joining in 1986. Although there have been some personnel changes throughout the years, the band's signature sound is still there. In the beginning, it was Bob Vila, and in 1989, Steve Thomas became the host. The present host, Kevin O'Connor, took over from Steve in 2003. Norm Abram, the master carpenter, may be familiar to longtime viewers, but he has been absent from the program since 2022. Estimates place Tom Silva's wealth at about $2.5 million as of the year 2024. It wasn't until he encountered a tragic event that Tom's career took a turn for the worst. A member of the group, contractor Dick Silva, who also happens to be Tom's brother, is taking on a house remodel for the first time in the group's 21 years. An unconventional project, unlike the typical improvements, begins this season. After a devastating fire on March 9, 1999, the house in Billerica, Massachusetts, had to be rebuilt from the bottom up. It was deemed necessary to tackle this fire project despite Norm Abrams's distaste for them, the show's master carpenter. Viewers witnessed Tom's handling of the burned remains on the October 2nd season premiere. Tom, who had assisted his brother on numerous home renovation projects over the past 3 decades, found it to be an emotionally taxing experience. Majority of 3 towns' fire departments responded to the blaze, which took 5 hours of non-stop effort to extinguish. Friends and relatives, including Dick, Tom, and John, they were out in the chilly air, crying and hugging as they watched everything happen. At 4:30 p.m., they managed to extinguish the last remaining flames. The only casualty was the Silva family's Shar-Pei, Penny, who was 7 years old. Flames scorched her fur and filled her lungs with smoke as she tried to squeeze through the dog door, but the house that Dick and Sandra had lived in for 32 years, where they had raised their 3 daughters, was totally destroyed. It was an absolute nightmare there, starting in the basement and ending on top. It appeared as though it had been bombed in the early morning light. Half of the rear roof had collapsed, all of the windows were damaged, and there were melted pieces of vinyl siding hanging off the house. An internal collapse had caused a portion of the second story to fall onto the first. A ceramic carousel horse and several small vehicles that had melted together lay among the rubble, melancholy relics of a house that had once been filled with vintage clocks, toys, train sets, and equipment. That same day, a firefighter from the Billerica Fire Department named Al Millerani discovered the origin of the fire close to the heating system as he dug through the soaked basement. But he couldn't say for sure when it began. The fire, in his opinion, likely smoldered for almost an hour before someone took attention. "The problem is that everyone around here is working," tow director Russ Marash said, explaining why no one noticed the smoke alarms or anything out of the ordinary. A concerned bystander ultimately dialed 911 after seeing smoke billowing from the chimney. The house and all of its contents were thankfully insured for replacement value. Expecting complete reimbursement, Dick and Sandra retained the services of a public adjuster to assist them in calculating their losses and navigating the insurance company. According to Dick, it's an essential but difficult process. "In the workshop in the basement," he said, "I had tools worth around $36,000. The home was demolished, and the new one is being constructed in what the show's architect, Chris Dalmas, refers to as faux Victorian style. A new roof is being installed, new siding is being put up, and a new foundation is being laid. There are a lot of entertaining projects that Tom has worked on. He has constructed bowls out of burls, cookie jars out of a homeowner's wooden beam, baby rattles, baseball bats, beautiful table legs, and Christmas ornaments, among other things. As an added bonus, he also made the ring and the custom box to put it in." At over 80 years old, some are beginning to question whether a new leader is needed. Tom has unquestionably left an indelible impression on countless admirers across the globe, regardless of his decision. His on-screen charisma is indescribable, and his recommendations are always genuine.